say, a strong new movement within the Episcopal Church called realignment, and there was some effort. Interesting, that's where I first met Monsignor Steenson. He was at the time the bishop of the Rio Grande, which was down the southwestern part of the country. And
he was an Anglican bishop.
He was an Anglican bishop, right. And we would have these big national meetings of strategy. Well, what do we do in the face of what we would say the apostasy, prevailing apostasy, the Episcopal Church? And there began to be, the desire to actually create a separate Anglican entity for breaking away from the Episcopal Church. And I remember in particular a very significant conversation I had with Monsignor, who then was the bishop of Steenson, an Episcopal bishop, going for a long walk at one of these conferences, one of these sort of big political convocations we had, trying to figure out how to respond to the apostasy of the Episcopal Church. And both of us saying, that was the first time we mutually confessed our attraction to Rome. Again, to make a long story short, even though I did join this realignment and actually started a new Anglican church, my heart, something in it said, this is Protestantism. This is every time you want to deal with the apostasy and heresy that's prevalent in the church, you start a new denomination. And then you just wait 50 or 100 years, and then you've got the project all over again, because Methodism broke away from Anglicanism for the sake of Jesus Christ. Now Methodism is, in turmoil. And of course Anglicanism says it broke away for theology. And I found that this is not the way to do church. This is not the way to renew the church. And then when the ordinariate was formed, of course, Pope Benedict established that in an apostolic constitution in 2009, Anglicanorm Cedibus. There was something about that profoundly caught my imagination. Because suddenly it was not, I've always yearned for the unity of the church, and given the divisions with Anglicanism, even more for the unity of the church. And my heart was always kind of a Catholic ecclesiology, and in Protestantism, although there are wonderful things, I've learned from Pentecostals and evangelicals, it was just something of the divisions and all that just was always profoundly troublesome. And when he established a provision for Anglicans to come into the Catholic Church, into full communion with the See, be submitted to the magisterium, and yet retain their patrimony, was the word he used. There was something that said this is a profound prophetic action. For the first time in 500 years, an actual organic vehicle for reunion for a Protestant church that had broken away. And
which would have been, behind us on the wall here, we've got the Pope of, the bust of St. John the 23rd. Yeah. And so what we see in this ordinariate 30, 40 years later, from the beginning of why was St. John calling this council, that we see it fleshed out in the ordinariate.
That's right. I mean, you read the Vatican II aspects of the ecumenical components of those documents. There's already a profound vision of separated brethren rather than, I grew up in Charlestown. Literally, the kids I grew up with said, "Oh, Jurgan," they were my friends. They were not saying this, and these were not when I was being beaten up. These were my best friends. And they would say to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're going to hell." And they really meant that, because that's what they were taught down at St. Mary's parochial school. And of course, as you know, coming from more conservative Protestant background, all Catholics are going to hell too. And so